And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to the high banks of the D-shaped mile-and-a-half track known as Texas Motor Speedway as it plays host to today race number 33 of the Veterans of Foreign War Cup Series, the middle race of the round of 8 to determine who's going to be part of our final four competing for the championship in 3 weeks' time at ISM. Last week at Kansas, we already know that Boyd Hogan is going to be one of those four drivers. Today, we're going to be finding out maybe the second driver to lock themselves in. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Samuel Dyer. And Sam, a big field here tonight. There's a term out there in the racing world of Cup drivers going down to the lower series known as bushwhacking. We've got some Cup creepers here tonight.
Yeah, we've got a lot of drivers from our Rapid Fire National Series, and these guys are going to be putting on a show for us. We've already got a couple of drivers with some pretty decent qualifying times. Logan Helton, who had a good run last night, qualifying third here, and David Santini, who won last night, he's going to be starting in fifth place.
And with these drivers from the Rapid Fire National Series coming up here and racing in tonight's event, looks like 19 drivers in total will be taking the green flag, and makes it a little bit more interesting as far as those drivers trying to maybe point their way into the Final Four, because there's only about, I believe, 9 point separation thereabouts between third on down through sixth in the standings.
Yeah, it is very close between everyone that is in these standings so far. There's two drivers that are in must-win situations into this race. That's going to be Zach York and Caden Rush. Right now, Zach York looking like he's going to be the only one in here of those two drivers, and he looks pretty quick, but right now, based off practice and based off qualifying, Boyd Hogan looks like the fastest car out here.
He's going to lead them to the green as Boyd Hogan looking for his league-leading 14th trip to victory lane. He already knows he's going to ISM. He wants to rack up as many wins before then as possible, as he and Joseph Piscotto will be leading us to the green flag at Texas.
Piscotto is getting a pretty decent run there, but being shoved from behind is going to be the 18 to Boyd Hogan. And that two machine already up front. Logan Helton trying to follow suit into second place.
We've seen Helton make 2 Cup starts this season, both times, though, driving the number 41 for Storehouse Racing, and looking low on the back straightaway. Hogan throwing some major blocks.
Yeah, we're starting to already see the differences from our National Series to our Cup Series. The drivers already feeling the aggression. Helton last night really looked loose after about 20 laps on his tires for those Xfinity cars. But here tonight, the Cup machines are a different beast. We'll see if they've made any adjustments for that setup to see if that 18 car can stay smooth.
Saw that number 1 drift way up the track there in turns 1 and 2. That's David Santini, who's making his second Cup start of the season. We saw him make his debut this year back at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, filling in at Hendrick Motorsports in the 88.
Yeah, and we'll see if this one machine has anything left, if he can try to sweep the weekend here at Texas. But David Santini right now just holding right now. Piscotto going to be getting under the 18 machine of Logan Helton. And a lot of drivers, I believe over half the field, did not qualify for today's race. So they're going to have to figure out how to climb their way through the field. But it's going to be interesting to see, because it's not just the two drivers we talked about of Logan Helton and David Santini. There's a lot of other National Series drivers mixed in with everyone else.
We've also got the 54, Roger Gregory, Mcwherter Racing entry, as well as the 14 out of Storehouse Racing, that's Dylan Canova, who drives for RSS Racing down in the National Series. Kevin Roy in the 31 for RCR, also in the field, a driver for JD Motorsports down in the second tier series. As we're watching this battling back here, a lot of your playoff contenders in this mix. The 24, Vincent Arthur, coming into this race -8. Ryan Strunk, also -8. Zach York, as you mentioned, kind of in a must-win situation. And a driver that really lost a lot of ground there on that lap was Ty Mcwherter, who comes into this race that cutoff line bubble driver.
Yeah, Ty Mcwherter in that 96 machine. I think the last race we really felt like, oh man, he might be throwing this away. He figured out to win back at Las Vegas. So you really can never count this 96 car out. Ty Mcwherter always finds a way to put himself in the top 5. But right now, it's going to be Vincent Arthur and Ryan Strunk. Both those drivers did not qualify, and they've been cruising their way through the field, both starting 11th and 13th, now up to 6th and 7th.
Battle back here for 13th place. That's Justin Carey, James Love, also Greg Newsom in this mix. Just ahead of them, though, is the 11 of Taylor Butcher Benjamin. And you were talking about, the scenario of the 11, maybe today with a decent enough run, being able to go into the elimination race next week at Iowa, able to find himself at least locked into the Final Four on points.
Yeah, I mean, Taylor Butcher Benjamin came into this race with a solid 12-point gap going into that bubble position. So if you find yourself with a top 5 finish here for the 11, honestly, you could find yourself pointing your way in just by starting next week. So this 11 machine looking for a good day. A couple of other cars looking for solid days. I mean, Chad Goonsman in front of Butcher Benjamin. That 22 machine also looking to have a solid points day, trying to finish in the top 5 as well. But they're being hunted down by a lot of hungry drivers. Zach York now in the top 10, running 8th. A lot of drivers that are outside of the bubble looking in. They're in the top 10. It's all those drivers that are already locked in that are kind of outside of the top 10, and that's worrisome to see.
Looking at the 24 of Vincent Arthur, going to make a move for the 5th position on Logan York. He's running the fastest lap times on the track right now, and he is now up inside of the top 5 for the first time today. You almost wonder what might have happened if Vincent Arthur had been able to qualify a little bit closer to the front of the field, because yes, he's making forward progress right now, but as we documented in last night's race, and we will continue to document in this one, Texas Motor Speedway is a tire killer. So the question is, how much of his rubber is he using up in this charge to the field? How much will he have left when he eventually gets up there to try and challenge for the race lead?
Yeah, I mean, the real question is, if with climbing through, if you're able to at least stay with the top group of top 5 cars, you're in a really good position. Everyone's still staying pretty close. Tires have not really destroyed themselves just yet. I think the only driver that has dropped back a ton would have to be Logan Helton, who was up front battling for 2nd place, now back in 6th place. Could be losing that position to Zach York here pretty soon. As I say that, he starts fighting back on Ryan Strunk. So, tires are going to be interesting to see as yellow in the back.
Caution is out. Greg Newsom, Kevin Roy, a couple of the RCR teammates getting together on the backstretch.
Yeah, it looked like Justin Carey. No, that's a Greg Newsom just getting into the wall himself in the 3 machine, bouncing off the outside wall and into the inside wall.
Not only is it the first caution of the night, it's the first caution of the weekend here at Texas Motor Speedway, as last night's National Series race ran 150 green flag laps. We'll take a look and see what happened here off of turn 2. And yeah, that's the one problem here tonight. We talked last night with the National Series drivers, the Cup drivers feeling the same way. Turns 1 and 2, it's not only the area of the racetrack where you can gain a lot of ground, but if you have a mistake, you lose a lot of ground as well. And we saw right there just the 3 trying to get back to the throttle way too soon, as these tires had already been worn down 10 laps.
Yeah, and after about 10 laps, the 31 of Kevin Roy feeling like his car just is not stable enough to continue and has parked it for the day.
And we've got a couple of our leaders coming down pit road here. Well, looks like actually everybody deciding, the 2 cars coming down, we're going to come down 2. Ty Mcwherter in the 96 going to roll the dice and stay out.
That's an odd choice to make, coming in and staying out, as well as the 22. But these are solid decisions to see for these drivers, both the 22 and the 96. Stay out, get the bonus point for leading the lap. Points are going to be massive here coming into Iowa next week, just due to the fact that if Boyd Hogan wins again, that's another free ticket to the next round being stolen away, and it's all about points into next week.
Gas and go for John Mullins in the 13, so he will come out at least at the time for the in the 3rd position. I like this call by Ty Mcwherter and Chad Gunisman, though, to stay out, get a lap led, and then, maybe come down pit road, because the both of them were running somewhat towards the rear end of the field. I think Mcwherter had fallen back to around 14th. Gunisman was running around 12th, so they're not going to lose a whole lot of spots. And as you mentioned, these are the guys that are around that cutoff line. Ty Mcwherter, 8 points to the good. Chad Gunisman, 9 points to the good. While that sounds like a somewhat comfortable lead, when you consider the fact we had 19 cars in tonight's race, we don't know how many drivers are going to enter into next week's race at Iowa. Every point is so important at this critical position of the season.
Yeah, if we were looking at the National Series from last night, we would say that's a massive lead to have, as those drivers with a smaller field. Goonsman dropping it in, realizing he wasn't going to get that lap led, so could have an extra lap of fresher tires than the rest of the field. Ty Mcwherter staying out, though, That's a good call on his part, I think, because if this 96 machine expects an early caution to come out again, he'll have fresher tires for the later runs.
How about this call by John Mullins in the 13, not taking on any tires at all, going with gas only. He was up around the 6th position when that caution came out, so he's got a net gain of about 4 or 5 spots, but you gotta wonder what that car is gonna feel like on those worn out tires that have now cooled down going into the corner in turn 1 here on this restart.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point for our front two, it's going to be all that wheel spin on this restart here. Are you going to get a good launch with these older tires compared to the rest of the field? Yes, you were out there for only about 10 laps, and now you've been just pacing around, but still, 10 laps is a lot of damage to those tires. You're running about a half to a full second slower than what your best time was, so it's going to be difficult for these drivers. So they're going to have a lot of hungry machines behind them. We've already seen Boyd Hogan be aggressive here with a very aggressive block on the first lap. So expect this too to try to get up front as quick as possible.
This is the second time this season, the Veterans of Fillmore Cup Series, that these drivers have taken to Texas Motor Speedway. This track played host to race number 7 earlier on this year. 36 drivers took the green, or 35 drivers took the green flag in that one, but a number of the drivers that we're kind of highlighting here tonight in terms of battling for spots in that Final Four had decent runs the last time they were here. Boyd Hogan finished in 3rd, Ryan Strunk was 4th, Zach York in 5th, and Chad Gunisman was in 6th. So, some of these guys that are obviously looking for a good run here to keep their hopes alive for the championship maybe have this track circled on their calendar, not knowing what awaits them next week at Iowa.
Yeah, no, honestly, I mean, between the last time they were at Texas to this time, the track is going to be completely different in a lot of ways. iRacing has put a lot of different tire models in here. There's been some upgrades to the draft model as well for some of these drivers. And another thing to look out for is the track temp. The track temp is a lot cooler than it was the last time they were here. Last time it was in the hundreds. This time it's around 87 track temp, so a lot cooler, but still hotter than it was last night for those national guys, and they were slipping and sliding after about 20 laps on their tires.
Those of you that like those by-the-number statistics, that race win was taken by John Caudle back at Texas earlier on this season, driving the number 18 for Joe Gibbs Racing, the car that Logan Helton is in here tonight. Helton was actually a part of that Cup Series race as well, finishing his Hendrick Motorsports 48 in the 12th position. But we're getting ready to go back green on lap 15 here. Ty Mcwherter, no pit stop. John Mullins, no tires but fuel, and then fresh tires all the way back behind them. This is going to be an interesting restart as Mcwherter gets a nice launch.
A very nice launch, but here comes Boyd Hogan on those fresher tires, already getting a fabulous launch for himself. Vince and Arthur able to drop down below and follow the 2 machine as they continue to push by Mullins. It's just going to drop back, and everyone has to be careful with fresh tires to old tires. They might be going 3 wide behind us here, behind the leaders, but they still stay 2 by 2.
Remember, Vincent Arthur was the fastest car on the track during that last green flag run, and he is all over the back bumper of Boyd Hogan. A couple of cars sporting the pink here tonight on that 2 and 24, and obviously, as you can see up in the top left, we are also sporting the pink here during the month of October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We've got a fundraiser going on here during the entire month, and if you'd like to help and contribute, link is down in the description of this broadcast. As Vincent Arthur, he had Boyd Hogan right there in his sights for a brief moment, but looks like 1 and 2, he slipped up just a little bit.
Yeah, and those simple mistakes are going to cost greatly. Santini now up to 3rd place. I'm watching how Ty Mcwherter is dropping back, and there was a very sketchy moment between the 96 and the 19 as really Zach York is quick, but looks a little out of shape coming out of the corners, and it's kind of making me a little nervous as Ryan Strunk now gets under the 19.
Well, Zach York got the apron there in the center of 1 and 2. That drifted him up the track, losing the momentum. Ryan Strunk, as you mentioned, gets the run to the inside and will take the 6th position away. And Ty Mcwherter, as you also said, continuing to free fall. He's now back to the 9th position. John Mullins right there back to 10th place. So they're hoping they can kind of just slot in there for the moment. Remember, both of these drivers about 10 laps behind everybody else. As Vincent Arthur got a nice exit off of turn 2, a push down the back straightaway, a little bit of a bubble push from David Santini, and he's to the point as Rocky make that Boyd Hogan way up the track there in turn 4.
Yeah, he went so high, letting the rest of the field go on by. From first back to fifth places for the two as they all scatter. Piscota now getting under Helton there, trying to push the 18 up as Logan Helton going to be trying to punch the 9 as much as possible. Santini now going to get under the 24 for the battle for the lead.
Santini's looking for the weekend sweep. He took the checkered flag here last night in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. Now trying to put that Chip Ganassi Racing Chevrolet in victory lane. The last time we saw that car on track was when Rocky Boyd was driving it. Vincent Arthur, though, he may have to look out the rearview mirror because here comes his teammate Piscota.
Right now, this front group is a total of 7 cars, all at the ready for striking. If you're in the lead and you get pushed up, Santini, you're going to drop probably all the way back to the end of the line.
We're seeing a lot more runs here tonight in terms of drivers being able to make moves. Is that just the conditions of the track, or is it the way that these cars handle as opposed to the national cars we saw last night?
Well, these cars are a lot faster, so you can carry a lot more speed into the corner. Corner number 1 is going to be a lot harder for these drivers. You can easily drift up if you hit the apron, or if once your tires start wearing, as Vincent Arthur now going to be pushed up by the 9 machine. And so once you get pushed up in the entry of corner number 1, you're pretty much a sitting duck for the rest of the track.
So right there with the track info, 88 degrees track temperature for these drivers. That's about 12 to 14 degrees higher than the national drivers had to deal with last night. So we may, the longer this run goes on, see a lot more slipping and sliding.
Yeah, the sun is out, and since the last time I talked about it back on the caution, it's gone up a degree, so that's something to watch out for as the run goes on. This is an open setup league, so these drivers have the potential chance of making setups here under caution.
Now, I know that he's running back in 16th. This kind of bears reporting as well. Chad Gunisman, we saw come to pit road under the second lap of that caution. He came down and he went with a fuel-only strategy as well, and the reason for that is these drivers only have 5 sets of tires here tonight to be able to utilize for these 167 laps. I'm assuming that Mullins and Gunisman, who both went with fuel only, they're assuming we may see a couple of late yellows. They want to have that 1 or maybe 2 fresh set of tires available to them on late race restarts.
Yeah, we're already seeing the drivers that decided to do that strategy of tires or fuel, with fuel only or not even taking tires, are running right now. They're running back in 14th on back, struggling difficultly back here as up front. It is still racing action. Santini pushed up to the high side. Piscota to the lead.
Joseph Piscota, who is coming off back-to-back third-place runs. Actually, no, make that back-to-back-to-back. Third place at Dega, third place at the Roval, third place at Kansas, looking for his first win of the season, and that is one of our drivers that if he were to win here today, he would be locked into the Final Four at ISM.
Re-looking at it,
nope,
I believe that's Vincent Arthur that would be locked in of those Hendrick guys. Both of them have been running so well all playoffs long. It was due to the fact that Piscota actually missed a race in round number 1 that took him out.
Oh, Vincent Arthur was looking at the inside. Santini there almost forced the issue. So let me kind of backtrack here on my error in terms of Piscota. Since he is not in the playoffs anymore, actually a little bit more pressure taken off of him, he can go out here be as aggressive as he wants to try and get his first trip to victory lane.
Yeah, this is so frustrating for the drivers that are up here. You got Vincent Arthur that's outside looking in, as well as Ryan Strunk and Zach York. They're all in this front group, and they're needing a win to get in. Kind of in a way, I would say that Vincent Arthur and Ryan Strunk, they've got a chance to point their way in with a good, solid finish here and a good, solid next week. But, there's a lot of drivers that are here from the National Series that are doing well, and drivers that aren't even in the playoffs that are doing well up here.
Vincent Arthur now going to get to the inside of David Santini. Ooh, drifted up off the bottom just at least a little bit, pushing up off of 2. Open door for Boyd Hogan to take him 3 wide into 3. Who's going to be the one to back out? Looks like it's Arthur.
Arthur backs out. Santini was able to keep on pushing forward. I think the 2 and the 24 most likely both backed off at the same time, which kept them side by side. Boyd Hogan now up to second place and slowly merging forward, as well as Zach York now going to be under the 1 machine's quarter panel, which will drift him up.
Here come the Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas. York in the 19, Helton in the 18 as York got way out of shape there, almost up into Vincent Arthur, and now Helton going to split his teammate 3 wide.
They stay 3 wide, which is going to hurt Vincent Arthur the worst. He's going to be all the way up in that groove that has no rubber put into it.
gracious, he might have gotten to the back of Zach York. I'm not sure. Maybe that was just York getting loose, but the two of them might have made a little contact off the final corner.
Almost also got it into the wall, and which, with all this battling with our top 7, it's now brought in the 11 of Butcher Benjamin out of nowhere.
How about that? Now all 3 of the Joe Gibbs Racing drivers that took the green flag tonight are up inside of the top 10. Taylor Butcher Benjamin latching on to the tail end of this group, and ooh, that 19 does not look happy. And last night, in the closing stages of that race, we saw Logan Helton slideways lap after lap after lap, kind of making me a little bit nervous to see drivers with that back end starting to kick out on them, especially in the center of the corner.
Boyd Hogan back to the point. The 2 machinists finally moved his way up as Vincent Arthur as well as Strunk got out of shape at a 2.
Everybody now starting to feel the effects of their race car. No doubt most of these drivers setting their cars up for the long run, which means that they would want to have the car start out loose. But then, as those tires continue to wear and that rear end grip goes away on these long green flag runs, then you're screaming for grip on corner exit, which is why we're seeing a number of these drivers, at least in the middle portion of this lead group, slideways off the corner.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing that we're seeing from these drivers is the fact that we're getting close to that 20-lap marker that I talked about last night, where about 20 laps into a run, you lose all types of grip, and it's just you're sliding out of the corner, and if you haven't set your setup right for the long run, you're going to be struggling here for the next 20 laps until you think about pitting.
We mentioned that last night's race went 150 laps green flag from start to finish. Does not mean that race was not without incident. We had Logan Helton spin onto pit road. We had another driver spin down through the infield grass in the front straightaway, but it did not bring out a caution. So these drivers have to be conscious of that as well. If you make a mistake, Ryan Strunk, way you lose there into 3. If you get out of shape and you spin out, there's not a guarantee a caution's going to come out and save you depending on what area of the track it's at.
Yeah, honestly, we were honestly lucky to see that the 3 even brought out a caution with his spin since he was off the racing surface. It's just that he was so sideways for so long. That's what brought the caution, our first caution of the day, as side-by-side action back for 7th place. As Butcher Benjamin now up to 7th, going to slowly making his march forward. But yeah, no, got to keep our eyes out to see when drivers going to come into the pits. I think our marker, though, has to be Ty Mcwherter. When will this 96 machine come into the pits? He had a little bit of help with the caution laps and trying to save fuel that way, but he's the one driver that is not coming to the pits at all compared to everyone else.
Right now, Ty Mcwherter in the 15th position. John Mullins and Chad Goodisman, who went with fuel only under our only caution. Right now, the 13 is in 13th. The 22 is in 16th. 18 cars still running, all on the lead lap out of 19 that took the green to start this race. And while Boyd Hogan is running slightly faster than Joseph Piscota, he's not really gapping him. Piscota is keeping at least somewhat in touch with that Penske Racing Ford.
Yeah, just you got to keep yourself close enough, but the longer this run goes on, the more that 2 is going to pull away. I mean, Boyd Hogan has always set his car up for the long run to pull away from the rest of the field. And that's kind of like what we were seeing from the BJ McLeod drivers last night on their victories. The longer the run went on, the further they got to pull away.
And you're looking here at the battle for 3rd. This is between those 2 teammates you were talking about from last night. Santini and Helton, BJ McLeod teammates down the National Series. Here tonight, running the Busch Brothers schemes, the Chevrolet out of Chip Ganassi Racing, the Toyota out of Joe Gibbs Racing, as Santini going to complete the pass, but Helton says, not so fast. I want that 3rd spot back.
That last lap, David Santini, fastest car on track. That one's got speed, but the question is, with being pressured so much by the 18, is that going to be putting any type of mistakes on the 1 machine?
Been a long time since we've seen a Chip Ganassi Racing Chevrolet in the field. I believe the last time we saw one was about 7 weeks ago when Tom Drayling was driving the number 42. So nice to see a Chevrolet bow tie out of the CGR stables there. Is back behind them. You've got a battle brewing. Ryan Strunk, despite being out of shape, he is still right there on the back door of Vincent Arthur and Taylor Butcher Benjamin, trying to make this a 3-man fight for a spot inside of the top 5.
Yeah, you were talking about earlier in this run how Zach York just looked like he was out of shape, not feeling comfortable. It looks like it just continues on as he's running about 3/10 off of what our leaders have been running. He's faster than the rest of the field behind him, but he is very off of what our top 7 have been running.
As we mentioned, Zach York, after missing last week's race at Kansas, comes into this race a 37-point deficit And that's between himself and that fourth in the standings cutoff line, never mind the overall points leader in a must-win situation. I think we can also safely say that it's now going to come down between 6 drivers for those final 3 spots. With missing Kansas last week and missing Texas tonight, it looks like the driver that completed the sweep at all the road courses this season, Caden Rush, will not be advancing into the Final 4 at ISM. Unless he wins next week.
Oh yeah, completely. There's a lot of scenarios where we could be seeing drivers still win here today. I mean, Las Vegas is probably one of the biggest. How did that happen during the playoffs? I mean, we counted out Ty Mcwherter by a long shot for about 3/4 of that race, and then our top 7 all wreck out in the final couple of laps. I mean, anything can happen during these races here during playoff time.
And if we do get those late race restarts, the question of, what would be the difference between the fresh tires and the old tires? Well, if we utilize the 2 of Boyd Hogan right now, looking at his lap times, that last time around, he ran just about a 30 flat, his fastest lap, a 28.4. So that is 1.6 seconds difference between the tires.
And what is Ronnie, who's been out there for 41 laps compared to the 20 laps that on, he's running only about 10 off from the 10 off. So if he hits his mark, he's almost running as fast as our leaders. So it equals that after 30 laps to 20 laps in your tires if you don't hit.
The 3 of Greg Newsom. We know that he was involved in our
well, if we take what we did last night, looks like most of these drivers might be aiming for 2-stop marker for these drivers. Aiming for 2 stops at probably around lap 55 will be the time that we see Ty Mcwherter coming into the pits. Everyone else probably aiming for around lap 6 for the drivers that only took fuel. For the drivers that took fuel and tires, they might be aiming for about lap 70 out. So that would put them about around lap 76, I believe.
And, it's interesting, too, because last night we saw a couple of drivers, not many, but a couple of drivers try and split the race into a 3-stop strategy rather than the 2-stop. And while it kind of looked like it was working out for them on the short run, it really didn't pan out for them on the long run. So with that being said, do we see anybody try and utilize that strategy here tonight, especially those playoff contenders?
I mean, we might be seeing that on the back half of things, but it's going to be hard to tell as, the 8 of Chris Noble went for a ride out of 2. Slow is going to be losing about 5 positions, but that 8 machine able to save his car after a wild ride that he had out of 2.
Well, able to at least keep himself in the 14th position, and as soon as I say that, he now loses that to Roger Gregory, and now looks like he's actually bringing that race car down pit road. So must have really roasted those tires and is taking this opportunity to come down and get some fresh ones.
Yeah, going back and seeing what exactly happened to the 8 car coming out of 2. It just looked like he got loose, got into the outside wall pretty hard, got out of the way of everyone else, and now trying to get repairs done as he just got to his bike.
So he will be falling off the lead lap as well. Been a tough night for the drivers out of the RCR stables. Kevin Roy already out of the race. Greg Newsom now several laps down, and most recently, Chris Noble in the 8 running into his problems. So not the runs here tonight that that 3-car team was looking for, as the battle is on for second. David Santini has
Logan Helton killed it. Flashbacks of last night the 18 just had as he completely got almost completely sideways at 2, saved it, did more correct, now still running in 5th place. But I thought for a full second we were about to have a caution.
And something I'm noticing too, the track conditions have changed. The track is almost completely bathed in shadow. As a cloud has come down in front of the sun, and so these drivers for a brief moment will have somewhat cooler racetrack. So it's time for drivers that are in battles to utilize this grip as much as they can until that sun comes back out?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about how it changed a little bit. It went up to 88 degrees, and now it's dropped back down to 87 because of the cloud cover and the shade on the track. So, it's cooled down just 1 degree, and you'd think that 1 degree isn't a lot, but these drivers were setting up their cars with any of the adjustments for that track temp that they were on previously. So maybe some of the adjustments the drivers were making, it's now finally clicking because of the track temp dropping.
Santini now starting to pull away from Piscotty, trying to reel in Boyd Hogan. He's going to have to cut down about 3 seconds. The best battle on the track right now is going on between the three drivers that are all kind of off sequence of their strategy from everybody else. That's John Mullins, Ty Mcwherter, and Chad Gunnisman. Right now, 10th through 12th.
And they're running quick. Like these are some very fast lap times these drivers are putting down. And it's making me curious to see if they weren't so off sequence, where would these drivers be running? Because based off of what they were running at the same times that our leaders that all pitted on our first caution are running, I think they'd be running in the top 5 at least, with at least Gunnisman and Whitaker here. Mcwherter, excuse me. So it's interesting to see what would happen as the race goes on.
Piscotty back to the inside of David Santini for the runner-up spot. He'll take the position, and as these two are racing side by side, Vincent Arthur in that pink and black number 24 was starting to chip away the advantage these two had over him.
Yeah, trying to do the best that Vincent Arthur can do. Really looking for a solid day. Coming into today was in 9th, 8 points back from being inside the lead. Inside of the top 4 and points wide. Ryan Strunk also tied with Vincent Arthur. So that 24 machine's got a couple of drivers thinking I need to be in front of, and it's doing a great job at it.
Right now, Taylor Butcher Benjamin in the 7th position, Chad Gunnisman in 12th, Ty Mcwherter currently is in 11th, and the drivers that are knocking on the door trying to point their way in currently, Ryan Strunk and Vincent Arthur. Strunk's in 6th and Arthur's up in 3rd. So I think at this point in time, the 4 that came in inside the top 4 above the cut line still are there, but it's got to be close now between the 24, the 77, the 22, and the 96. I'm just not sure what the exact number is, as Santini, who just had 2nd place taken away from him, he's hitting pit road. So the first round of green flag pit stop cycles begin with the number 1 car.
Yeah, this is around the time that these drivers would be thinking about pitting if they were on sequence, if they never even pitted early. So it makes sense to come in if you had a game plan, get back onto that game plan, and try to be ahead of everyone else. Santini's in, as well as Chad Gunnisman's coming in for that 22 machine. Interesting to see that.
This is the first set of tires that Chad Gunnisman will be putting on, as he went with fuel only under that caution. You see a couple of drivers have already been put a lap down into green flag conditions, courtesy of Boyd Hogan. That was the 88 of James Love and the 21 of Justin Carey. So currently we have 12 drivers on the lead lap, as Mullins, who also went with the fuel-only strategy under the yellow, he's on pit road this time.
Pit road is busy now with drivers coming in, and it's going to be all those drivers. I think Santini's the only one so far of drivers that this could have been a on-purpose sequence, but he's been in pit road for way too long for that one machine. I'm going to go back and see what exactly happened to this driver. Maybe he got into the wall, possibly. Added 2. That's the only spot I could think that made this one machine have to come into the pits.
Very, very long pit stop there for David Santini. Spent about 55 seconds on pit lane. It only takes about, at max, 15.5 seconds for your pit crew to do a 4-tire stop. So yeah, had to have been for some damage repair, and there's an idea of what the fresh tires versus old tire looks like. That's Chad Gunnisman flying around his Penske Racing teammate to get himself back to 1 lap down, and he should be cycled back on the lead lap once everybody comes to pit road.
I went back and seen why the one machine was in for so long. It's for speeding on entry. That's why he was stuck on pit road for so long, and simple mistakes like that can cost you for a win. And this one machine's now hoping to see a pit sequence go through, then be the first car 1 lap down, and then a quick caution so you can get back on the lead lap. But this is going to take all race now to try to get this one car back on the lead lap.
Well, we know that David Santini is a good driver, as shown in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. But last night, he had to make two green flag pit stops, I should say, in that race. And you mentioned the fact that these Cup cars have a lot more power, a lot more speed. Do you think that maybe threw him off in terms of his braking point when he did come to pit lane entry?
Honestly, it could have been. It could have been the exact reason. He was off by about 10 miles per hour from making it in on pit entry speed. So just that little bit of more horsepower hurting this one car here today.
We saw both John Mullins and Chad Gunnisman come to pit lane. They went with the fuel-only strategy on pit road. Ty Mcwherter is the only driver that's not been on pit lane yet today. He still continues to stay out, currently in the 8th position. I'm a little surprised by this because as soon as I saw the 13 and the 22 jump to pit road, I was almost certain that the 96 wouldn't be too far behind.
Well, I talked about the fact that he's got a very strong long-run car. I mean, he's running just as fast as our top 5 right now, and he's about 12 laps older tires than the rest of the field. It's incredible to see what Ty Mcwherter has, because he's going to be running well. He's running right now faster than second place is of Piscota. So staying out there this long, the only goal that Mcwherter is thinking, save fuel so I'm on the same sequence as everyone else, or just a little bit off so I've got an extra set of tires later in the race.
Zach York in a technically must-win situation coming into this one on pit road. Here comes the Stewart Haas Racing Ford of Dylan Canova. Been having a very solid outing here today, pitting from around the 10th position. We still have about 11 drivers that are yet to come down pit road to complete this green flag cycle.
Still a lot of drivers waiting and seeing when they'll come in, and we're going to try to keep our eyes out to see if any mistakes happen, as we saw a lot of it earlier on. Ty Mcwherter just going to be notifying everyone he's coming in this time.
Mcwherter will be pitting from the 7th position. Do we see somebody like, say, Ryan Strunk, Vincent Arthur, maybe stay out an extra lap when Hogan and Piscota eventually come to pit road to try and get that bonus point? Because currently, I believe the only 2 playoff contenders that have led a lap here tonight so far are Hogan in the 2 and Mcwherter in the 96.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, trying to stay out and get that bonus point is going to be so important, as Chris Hansen's going to be overshooting his pit stalls. We had to back up, wasting some time there. That's the other thing here with green flag pit stops, is making sure you hit your pit road right. But I would say Vincent Arthur is kind of in a must-lead position here. I mean, especially with seeing Mcwherter lead a lap. That's the driver you're aiming for. If he's getting bonus points, you need to get bonus points as well.
Absolutely. As Hogan continues to circle around the racetrack, there's Mcwherter. He's going to go, I believe that's a 2nd lap down. He'll undoubtedly get one of those laps back here momentarily with those fresher tires. Piscota in 2nd, Arthur 3rd, Strunk and Benjamin your top 5. We're still also waiting for Logan Helton, Roger Gregory, James Love, and Justin Carey to hit pit road. And these drivers have been able to be out there now for about 48, now going on to 49. No, I'm sorry. Correct that. 44 laps, I believe. They've now been out there. No, 54. I apparently cannot do math. 54 laps they've been out here on this set of tires.
It's okay. So it's been a long week so far for all of us at Flatout Racing Network, with broadcasts every single day, and it catches up to us every once in a while.
And there's more to come after tonight's race, or maybe just around the end of this race. We're going to also be having coverage of the FTF Grand National Series. Their playoffs continuing on at North Wilkesboro, so some short track racing to cap off the week here.
Yeah, and that's going to be a wild race to see, as there's a couple of drivers that are hunting and needing a win, and they're going to be doing their best so far. As right now, James Love just notified that he'll be coming in, but I've been watching right now this battle here for 4th place. Ryan Strunk and Butcher Benjamin, they have been running really close, but the 20 of Chris Hansen just came into the pits for tires, and kind of has just been mingling in between these drivers. Interesting to see where they're going to be going, as also Piscota just notified he'll be coming in.
To wonder if the 20 is able to get by here with the 77 up the track. If maybe his teammate in the 11 can capitalize, closes the gap up a bit, but not quite within striking distance. As we'll follow the 9 onto pit lane. Nope. Ankar going to stay out an extra lap.
Tricking. I mean, this is a play, right? To call when you're going to come in so that you force maybe the leader to come in a lap ahead before he wants to. This is a ploy for a lot of drivers sometimes. Come over the comms, say when you're coming in, but then stay out maybe a lap or two further.
Well, James Love in the 88 did come to pit lane. So he is now to the attention of his crew, as we'll see if maybe Piscota's going to pit this time, running low on the track, but no, going to still continue to stay up there in turn 4. So 8 drivers still left to come down and hit pit lane, as right now, if a caution were to come out in the middle of green flag pit stops, and that has seemed to happen quite a bit here in the past couple of weeks, it would be the 54 of Roger Gregory who would be the recipient of the free pass. He was actually put a lap down about 5 laps ago by Boyd Hogan.
Yeah, we're seeing drivers that are a lap down because they pitted for tires and fuel, and then we also got drivers that are a lap down just by being ran down by our leader. So it's a lot of intermingling that's going on, which is causing a lot of confusion for some and hard racing for others. Chris Noble, after trying to get damage repair, has officially parked it for the day for that 8 machine.
And you talked about David Santini having some pit road issues. Looks like some problems as well for the 88 of James Love. He was just on pit road. He's back down again. Here's Taylor Butcher Benjamin now at the attention of his crew, pitting from around the 5th position.
Yeah, right now I'm trying to go back and seeing what exactly happened to the 88, but looks like he might have some heavy damage there on the right side of that 88 machine. Could have smacked the wall and decided it's time to come and get those repairs done.
Mcwherter Racing entry Roger Gregory, who just got put a lap down a couple moments ago. He's now bringing his Ford Mustang down pit lane. James Love down and away after a very lengthy stop in his stall. And now we're down to 6 drivers that are left to come down pit road. Make it 5 as Vincent Arthur brings his Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet.
Vincent Arthur in the 24 machine. We know everyone here is going to be taking 4 tires and fuel. But the question is, how well is your entry and exit out? As Roger Gregory now has also given warning to the field that he's pitting in and now coming out. This 24 machine had a very clean entry. Now, the rest of these drivers right now, I'm looking at Logan Helton. He is surrounded by drivers that have already pitted and on fresher tires, and it is it's kind of in a nerve-wracking spot when you're around some drivers that are in the playoffs and then also just drivers that are so much faster than you.
It's interesting too, because in last night's race, is Helton getting loose there up on the top side of turns 1 and 2, still sideways off of 2. You know, this is about the furthest we've seen drivers this weekend stretch it on a tank of fuel. They've now completed the 63rd lap of this run. Last night, we didn't really see any drivers exceed over 55 laps. And with that being said, with the fact they can go this far, it leaves a lot of options open as to when you want to make that final pit stop. Because as Hogan's now going to hit pit lane, you know, somewhere in the next 35 laps or so, the fuel window is going to be open to make it the rest of the way.
Yeah, I mean, the window's going to be open, but it's about those tires and making sure you have the right amount of tires, that you've used as much speed as possible into them to get the gap that you need, or even to run down the drivers that have pitted so much sooner than you. It's going to be really a question to see, as now our top 4 all coming in this time by in Elton. Woo! He really had to get that thing squirrely so he could slow down enough. I think he was slowed down enough, though, for the pit road. That was nerve-wracking to watch for the 18.
Boyd Hogan was the pole sitter tonight. Joseph Piscotta was second. Thusly, they have the first 2 pit stalls as Hogan down and away. Piscotta, a little bit more of a lengthier pit stop. Going to lose, I think, some ground to the 2 car here on pit road.
Yeah, looking at the way pits went, yes, the stop was was very much longer for that 9 machine, losing about a full second from Piscotta onto Boyd Hogan, and now you got the drivers that were out there pitted early with their advantages. They're now trying to pull away.
And how about Zach York? He was one of the earlier drivers to pit lane, took advantage of those fresher tires. He's now all over the back bumper of Boyd Hogan for the race lead. Could not quite get past the 2-car before he came off pit road. And look at the launch. Boyd Hogan on those fresher tires gets off of turn 2.
Yeah, that is 15 lap fresher tire difference that we're seeing there from Boyd Hogan and Zach York. And Zach York hoping that these adjustments that he might have been able to make here on pit road might be helping this 19 car on the longer run. But due to the fact that they're so off sequence with tires, that's where you're seeing the loss. I mean, Boyd Hogan's just going to continue to pull away from the 19 machine from here on out.
York, Arthur, and Strunk, who came in this race below the cut line right now, 2nd, 3rd, and 9th. The bad news for them is that the drivers, they're trying to get out of the top 4. Hogan's leading the race. Chad Gunisman's up in 5th. Taylor Butcher Benjamin 6th. Ty Mcwherter in 7th. So right now, those 4 drivers solidly holding down those top 4 positions in the standings, kind of leaving those other 3 almost in having to win here tonight at Texas if they're going to knock one of them out.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you have to do, is you have to pressure everyone that is outside coming in so they make the mistakes so they can't get into the playoffs. I mean, Vincent Arthur, we have seen time during this whole entire end of the regular season into playoffs, a very strong car. Issue was not having those really the playoff points to carry that machine throughout playoffs. And so Vincent Arthur has been trying to just dig away. Came into this race, like we said, 8 points out, tied with Ryan Strunk of being the last car outside of the bubble of our top 4. So it's going to be a lot of hard work, but it's still possible for these drivers with Ryan Strunk right now running back in 9th place.
We are nearly halfway home here tonight at Texas Motor Speedway, playoff race number 7, and getting closer to figuring out who is going to be battling for that championship in a few weeks' time at ISM. As Vincent Arthur trying to chip away at race leader Boyd Hogan. We're going to step aside for a quick commercial break. You won't miss a thing. We're going to go FRN side by side.
Since the VFW was founded, their mission was really to look out for the veterans community, to make sure that our nation upholds its promise to really care for the service member, the veteran, and his or her family. There are several ways that the VFW fights for veterans today. The top services include disability claims assistance, advocacy on Capitol Hill and with the Department of Veterans Affairs. We also offer scholarship opportunities, and then also volunteerism. For me personally, when I came back from Iraq, my life experience was drastically different from those around me, and the veterans of foreign wars really spoke to me. The reason I would encourage veterans who have served overseas today to join the VFW is because this is your organization. The VFW is for veterans. Every generation, a new generation of leaders steps up in the veterans of foreign wars and fights for the veterans community.
The Veterans of Foreign Wars. No one does more for veterans. For more information on the VFW, go to ahctv.com/sacrifice.
Most everyone involved in sim racing always wants to edge or even make the experience a little bit better, or in this case, a little bit more in-depth. Enter iRacing iFlag. iFlag is a simulation signal box with software designed by Peter Vostro. When you are behind the wheel in iRacing, your eyes are looking down the track or maybe even in the rear or side view mirrors. You may not notice or even hear when the caution comes out, when your car is damaged, or if you get black flagged, or even notice the car beside you. Yes, iFlag will point out the signs and tell you where that car is. It just makes iRacing more real and can help you become a better driver. We also offer iRacing iFlag Digital Pit Box. This small box is a great addition to any sim rig. With only 3.5 inches wide, it gives you all the information you need, including how many laps completed, how much fuel you will need to finish, what lap you need to pit on, laps so your fuel is empty, as well as weather and track conditions. It also switches when you come down pit road for more information, including what lap you're pitting under, tire wear, laps on tires, fuel average, and much, much more. To see more info, check us out today at iracingiflag.com.
Since the VFW was founded, their mission was really to look out for the veterans community, to make sure that our nation upholds its promise to really care for the service member, the veteran, and his or her family. There are several ways that the VFW fights for veterans today. The top services include disability claims assistance, advocacy on Capitol Hill and with the Department of Veterans Affairs. We also offer scholarship opportunities, and then also volunteerism. For me personally, when I came back from Iraq, my life experience was drastically different from those around me, and the veterans of foreign wars really spoke to me. The reason I would encourage veterans who have served overseas today to join the VFW is because
we continue to run under the green flag here tonight at Texas Motor Speedway. So far, we've gone into about a 90-lap green flag run, 80 laps away from the conclusion of tonight's event. Boyd Hogan, who was already locked into the Final Four with his win last week at Kansas, paces the field here tonight, looking for back-to-back trips to Victory Lane. And if he does go to Victory Lane, Sam, I mean, we do have the situation then where at least two drivers are going to point their way into the ISM championship battle.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think for drivers that are inside of the top four going into this race, I mean, Taylor Butcher, Benjamin looking solid in that 11 machine, running fifth. Exactly where I was talking about at the beginning of the broadcast, where the 11 needed run. Get a top 5 finish here, help your points. That's already a massive bubble to live. You already had 12 points to work with over that bubble spot, so might as well continue to just have a good run here for the 11 and set yourself points-wise, where you might even you might be locking yourself in next week if not enough people show up.
You know, it's kind of interesting. We were talking last night about the fact that drivers were going to be heading into Iowa for their elimination race, and they had actually been to Iowa earlier on that year. Here for the Veterans of Foreign War Cup Series, though, it's going to be their first trip to Iowa Speedway. So how much of a curveball is that going to throw for drivers like Zach York, like Vincent Arthur, like Ryan Strunk, that could be going into that race depending on how many drivers are in the field in almost a must-win situation?
It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, Iowa, it kind of matters on how much the drivers work in that track. It's usually a two-groove course at times, but at the higher line doesn't really come into play until about midway to the end of the race if they continue to keep on working into it. But Iowa's kind of like a Richmond at times, where it's kind of a one-lane groove and it's a one-lane track, so you got to make sure you're hitting your marks and running well. And it's going to be an interesting thing to watch as our battle for second place is on, as well for the battle for 8th place.
Logan Helton, Chad Gunesman further back there in that 8th place battle you're talking about, but we're watching this second place battle between the Hendrick Motorsports teammates. Joseph Piscota, the Little Caesars Camaro, will complete the pass and move into the runner-up spot over his teammate Vincent Arthur. Another battle that is brewing further back, that is where you've got Ty Mcwherter in the 96. You mentioned Logan Helton getting around Chad Gunesman. Now he's starting to run down that Toyota Cares Camry. And when we were in the commercial break, you were documenting about the fact this is a bit of a comeback run for Ty Mcwherter, just based on the fact that he started this whole race off sequence from everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, everyone else has already used one tire set over what he's used. I mean, the 96 machine is shown that the later this race and this run goes on, the better that he will be, better than the rest of the field. So Ty Mcwherter, it's kind of odd to, yes, it makes sense that he stayed out, didn't pit when everyone else did, trying to save that set for later on, just in case you have a late caution. But man, right now, you just got to keep imagining if he was on the same, basically be running around second, third place right now, if he was on the same stint as everyone else.
I can't help but think of the time back at Michigan when Ty Mcwherter played somewhat similar strategy, had an extra set of tires available to him, utilized them, and was able to hold off Boyd Hogan for what was eventually his first win of the season. So, you know, depending on if we do see another caution and where that caution would fall, we could see a little bit of deja vu here for Ty Mcwherter, who right now does not have to win to make his way into the Final Four. He is the cutoff line driver, and right now in the vicinity of just about all the other drivers that are trying to knock him out of the Final Four. But if push comes to shove, if you can head into Iowa automatically knowing you're going to battle for the championship, I'm sure that Ty Mcwherter would not turn his nose up at that.
No, not at all. I mean, Ty Mcwherter just got to keep doing what he's doing, which is slowly working back up as he's trying to run down Ryan Strunk. The only issue right now is they've got a very quick two machine of Boyd Hogan that is lapping the field one by one. Leading that way is going to be in 10th place. David Santini has been this whole entire time been trying to stay as the first car one lap down, but a total of 9 vehicles left on the lead lap. And if we stay green, that could be dropped down as we could be dropping down to about 3 cars left on the lead lap based on the pace that this 2 has been putting down.
We did have 10 cars on the lead lap prior to the 13 of John Mullins bringing his car down pit road for what potentially could be his final pit stop of the day. Coming down with about 70 laps to go, we know that a number of these drivers on that last green flag run just prior to the round of green flag pit stops, they went anywhere from about 65 to 68 laps before they came down pit lane.
This is such a difficult one to watch because right now Mullins, I think he's going to be about total of 5 laps short, so now he's got to worry about saving fuel on this whole entire run, which is possible, but you're going to be running so slow that you're not going to be able to gain anything by pitting this early over the rest of the field.
Hogan Helton moving by Ty Mcwherter into the 7th position. Up further ahead, the battle back on for second place. Joseph Piscotha got around Vincent Arthur, but Arthur has not gone away, and he's looking to take the spot back. Problem is, they've got the fresher tires of John Mullins right behind them.
Mullins is going to throw such a wrench into things for Vincent Arthur. That 24 machine has to run the high line, now losing all that time, but should be getting it back here. But Mullins able to make the pass here on the straightaway, which helps Piscotha out to keep that time that was gained by the 24 dropping back.
It's interesting, too, because, we mentioned the 4 drivers coming to this race that are below the cut line. We already know that for Zach York, he and Caden Rush were not in the field last week at Kansas. Why he comes into this race, York does, in the predicament he's in. But you look at drivers like Ryan Strunk and Vincent Arthur. Ryan Strunk last week, of course, had some issues. He and Oscar Jensen getting into it around the midway portion of that race. But Vincent Arthur actually finished 4th at Kansas. And you're probably wondering, well, why is he so far back in the point standings then if he had a top 5 run? The reason is this 24 car accumulated 0 playoff points during the regular season. And the playoff points carry into every round. So he headed into the round of 8 with 0 playoff points, putting him at a points deficit to everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, already, like we said, starting in a hole, even with the consistent runs that Vincent Arthur has had week after week during these playoffs, it's going to catch up to him. If he cannot get a solid finish here right now, running in the top 3, I think his second place is the most amazing thing that could happen to this team because it would close up that gap to Ty Mcwherter so much as well, where Goonsman's running. Right now, that 22 car running back in 9th place, the last car on the lead lap, and really is not putting up, is running quick, but not quick enough at the moment.
It'll be not too long, I think, until he's going to be seeing his teammate, Boyd Hogan, starting to maybe reel him in to put him a lap down. Hogan right now is exiting out of turn 4. Chad Gunisman, I think, was the red car just up ahead of him there on the front straightaway.
Yeah, and honestly, once this pass gets made, Goonsman goes down, and only a second and 8/10 ahead of them is going to be Ty Mcwherter. And then you also got Logan Helton and the rest of that crew that are all within about 5 seconds. So our whole entire top 10 is about to shrink possibly here to only about 4 drivers on the lead lap in probably the next 40 laps or so. But pits are going to be something to watch out for here in the next about 20 laps or so when drivers think about when will we pit.
And going back to the strategy of both Gunisman and Mcwherter, who did not take on tires during our only caution of the day, which was back around lap 10. Gunisman went with fuel only. Mcwherter stayed out the entirety of that caution period. In order for the strategy to work of having either that extra or 2 extra sets of tires for the latter portions of this race, you've got to keep yourself on the lead lap, because we've seen if you get the lucky dog, well, that's great. You're back in the lead lap, but you start not only behind the lead lap cars, but the lap down machines as well. And we've still got 17 cars out here running on the track.
Yeah, and right now, Goonsman would most likely stay as that first car one lap down, with David Santini being back almost 18 seconds from that ninth place machine. So there's a big enough gap to where Goonsman should be all right here if a caution comes out. The only issue is Boyd Hogan's not slowing down, and he's catching up to a pack of lead lap machines.
A lot of traffic right there. That was the 14 of Dylan Canova going a lap down, an extra lap down, I should say. There's Roger Gregory, the unsponsored 54. He's now going to fall a second lap down as well. And I believe that car just up ahead there in the distance is the 96 of Ty Mcwherter, who is currently the last car on the lead lap.
Yeah, it's going to be Ty Mcwherter, and then a second, or less than a second, is going to be Logan Helton in front of him, and then less than a second in front of Logan Helton is going to be Ryan Strunk, which then would leave us with 6 cars left on the lead lap, possibly 5. But this is crazy to see the dominance that really Boyd Hogan has now, as the lead gap between first and second is now 10 seconds.
It's interesting how track position has really been the key factor all weekend long here at Texas. David Santini dominated last night's race in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. Tonight it has been Boyd Hogan, who has made 25 starts this season and gone to victory lane in more than half of those starts. 13 trips to victory lane, 20 top 5s, 22 top 10s, and right now, en route, barring anything happening here in these final 50 some odd laps, of getting his 14th win of the season. And this is just all about momentum heading to that final 4, because he's already locked into the championship battle.
Yeah, and right now, Boyd Hogan, he's hunting for the most wins. He already has the most wins, but he's hunting to get all the rest of these wins of the season, win the championship, as he will not be returning to this league next season. So he's trying to get the championship and get out of here, as Zach York, one of the first drivers in the top 5, he's going to be pitting now when the window has already been open.
Window is open. York trying to maybe throw a Hail Mary here and see if these fresh tires can gain him something. Remember, he was one of the earlier drivers to hit pit road under the first round of green flag pit stops, and was about maybe 2 to 3 car lengths off of turn 2 away from getting the race lead from Boyd Hogan. So we'll see how this is going to play out for the driver out of Joe Gibbs Racing, as we're waiting for others to come to pit road. Looks like Ryan Strunk in the 77 is in.
This is a smart place for them. They have to come in. The only issue is that I think Boyd Hogan's going to be planning on staying out as long as he can. I'm questioning, though, the Hendrick drivers of the 9 and the 24. They have been battling back and forth non-stop for the past about 15 to 20 laps now, which is putting more wear and tear on their tires. But what's crazy is they're actually running faster than what the 11 is right now, and the 18 behind them.
Maybe a little bit of draft down these straightaways could be coming into play in that regard, but we also know that Taylor Butcher Benjamin's one of those drivers that really settles in for the long run, so maybe not pushing it that much. I'm just looking at the interval here between the 9 and the 24 and any possibility of them trying to jump the 2 in terms of short pitting. There's 10 seconds between them and the race leader. We've seen that you can gain about 1.5 seconds, maybe 1 second and 8/10 on fresher tires. I just don't think that that's a gap that they're going to be able to, under green flag conditions, chip into. Everybody here, if they're going to have a shot at dethroning Boyd Hogan today, they're going to need a caution.
Yeah, a caution is needed for these drivers. I mean, if you've got Piscota or Arthur, if they both come down trying to short pit the 2 and trying to gain all that time back, by the time that Boyd Hogan gets those fresh tires, I mean, we saw it with the 19, right? Zach York was right on the back bumper of the 2, and then he took off immediately. And that's exactly what we're going to see if you pit early. So at this point, it's more of you're racing the cars that you're around and not really trying to hunt down Boyd Hogan. It's get the best finish you can and try to be as far up forward as you possibly can be right now. And it's looking like for Arthur, that's second place, with Piscota being right there.
Chad Gunisman was just on pit road, our regular season champion. Taylor Butcher Benjamin was on pit road. And you see there the pass of Boyd Hogan on Ty Mcwherter, who had just cycled up to the 5th position. So currently 4 drivers now on the lead lap, as some more drivers on pit lane this lap, David Santini and Chris Hansen.
Yeah, Santini was trying to stay out there. He'd been the first car 1 lap down for so long, but the caution just never came for that team, and now it's just run the laps and hope that more drivers go a lap down, and maybe with the fresher tires he has, he can run down the other machines. But David Santini, a simple mistake of speeding on pit road really changed the whole entire aspect of where this one team was going to be here tonight. A driver that was hunting for a win, now just hoping to get a top 10 finish.
There's 4th place Logan Helton. He's now going to leave the door open. Boyd Hogan going to go to his inside. So now only 3 drivers currently on the lead lap. Boyd Hogan and the Hendrick Chevys of Joseph Piscota and Vincent Arthur.
I mean, just watching Boyd Hogan's laps, I mean, as long as he's got clean air in front of him, he's running below a 30-second lap time, which to everyone else, they've been running about 30.0s, 30.1s after about 5 to 6 laps on these tires. And Boyd Hogan, he's been out there for 44 laps on these tires, and he's still able to run 29.9s, which is incredible times to see for a driver. And you just know they put in the work week after week to show off this long run speed.
Well, we were wondering about Zach York coming to pit road as early as he did, maybe trying to take advantage of fresh tires, but looks like he may have sustained some damage along this green flag run. He spent a pretty lengthy amount of time on pit lane and subsequently has now fallen 3 laps down to the leader, back in the 13th position.
I'm looking at how much time he was on pit road. That looks like a speeding penalty for the 19 car that was trying to gain time. So Zach York, he is now, we were stating it that he's kind of was in a must-win already. He is now confirmed to be in a must-win scenario next week at Iowa, which you really don't want to be in that scenario just based on how dominant we've been seeing Boyd Hogan be recently.
Logan Helton on pit road this time. The 14 of Dylan Canova also going to come down pit road. Looks like we are around maybe 6 to 7 drivers that are still yet to come down pit lane for what potentially could be their final pit stop of the day, depending on what happens here in these final 45 laps.
Yeah, I mean, there's still so much that can happen, especially during this stint of the race, with everyone being so off sequence from one another, drivers that are pitting, drivers that have not pitted. There's always the chance of someone just getting ran over, or those drivers that are on much older tires, or people that just aren't used to the fresh tires, getting loose at it too and spinning out. And also the potential of someone absolutely missing pit road and causing a wreck there that could be bringing out a yellow.
Roger Gregory on pit lane this time. Here comes Ty Mcwherter in the 96 from the 4th position. Going to hit pit lane.
And that gap to our leader is now moved up to 11.2 seconds. As now the 18 machine that is already coming to the pits of Helton going to be making the pass on Piscota, trying to figure out how to unlap himself here the hard way, with Helton just cruising by, being 2 laps down at this moment due to pitting and being put down a lap down before he even pit. So we might be seeing most of the field 2 laps down, which is crazy to see, because that means if a late caution does come out, a wave around is only going to leaving you 1 lap down.
Exactly. I mean, Boyd Hogan, that last time by, still running nearly 30 flat second lap times. I mean, that is incredible with him being out there on 50 lap old tires. That's only about 1.6 seconds off his fastest lap. It's the fastest of anybody else out there. Everybody else on the older tires is still running 30.1s, some of them running 30.2s and 3s. This is an unbelievable pace for somebody that is obviously not really backed down his pace at all, but still is having the tire grip to be able to turn these fast lap times.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give credit to the Hendrick guys, right? I mean, Piscota's still only about a 10th off, and he's been staying about a 10th to 2/10ths off of this 2 car all day long, but there's only so much you can do without it going to a green-white checkered at the end here. I think that's the only potential chance that Boyd Hogan has to lose this race, because if it stays green, he's just hoping that no one else causes a yellow flag to come out.
We're waiting for our top 3 to come to pit lane, as well as the lap machine of James Love, possibly the 4th place car of John Mullins. I'm not sure if he did make his final pit stop of the day about 30 laps ago or not. You see him actually getting passed right now. That's a 2nd lap down. He's being put in. Taylor Butcher Benjamin, actually, that was 4th position right there, moving into the 4th spot as he's already been on pit lane. But I kind of wondered about maybe spinning some kind of conspiracy theories here heading into Iowa, and I wondered, we've seen a number of times Cup drivers coming down to the National Series, running a couple of races during the course of the season, and I wondered if any of the Cup drivers had actually been down to the first race at Iowa for the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. Well, the answer to that is only one driver was down there during that first race. It was the 24 of Vincent Arthur, and he finished dead last. So, yeah, not a whole lot of statistics to go off of for these Cup drivers heading into Iowa next week.
But I will say, though, the weeks that we've seen Vincent Arthur go drop down, even if he's not having a good day, but still getting that information of the track previously until he goes into the next race, to the next day for the Cup drivers, he still gets a lot of information. He usually has a top 3 run to a top 5 run after running the track the day before in the National Series and then moving up to the Cups and still transferring that information.
Talked much today about the 21 of Justin Carey out of Wood Brothers Racing. Looks like he's run into some trouble. He was just down on pit road a couple of laps ago and is still sitting there getting damage repaired to his IK9 Ford Mustang.
James Love also came in a lap ago for tires and fuel, and that 88 machine back on track. Only issue 6 laps down for that 88 machine, as behind Boyd Hogan, there is a cluster of cars that are on very different stints trying to figure out where they're going to go. Vincent Arthur into the pits for that 24 machine.
Arthur from the 3rd position on pit lane, and you talk about that melee behind the race leader. That's Ryan Strunk, 2 laps down. Zach York, 3 laps down. I believe behind him is John Mullins, who is also 2 laps down, and then Roger Gregory, who is 7 laps down. So a bunch of different drivers here on varying strategies, varying tire wear, grips, and all running nose to tail right now behind the race leader.
Joseph Piscota in the 9 now coming into the pits is coming in. I'm going to have to go back and see. Someone who had a fun time coming through pit road there. And I have a sneaky suspicion that could have been the 21 machine there.
Yeah. Saw those skid marks there when we were seeing Piscota hit pit lane down through the infield grass and down into the inside wall just around pit road exit.
Justin Carey back on lap 120 went for a ride coming out of 4 loose and came sliding across the infield, stopping right at the entry of pit road. Was able to stop to tow his way back to pit road and bring it out no yellow. But those are the incidents that we were talking about. Tim Williams was that car last night that went for a lot of different rides through the infield, but no yellows were brought out.
There you see it. Hard on the brakes, but not able to slow it down in time before contact with the left front into that inside wall. A wild ride for Justin Carey, who has gotten his machine back out onto the racetrack, and it looks like, the 13 of John Mullins, I thought he probably was going to have to be back on pit road here before the conclusion. He just now hit pit road, has dropped back, at least at this point, to the 11th position.
Well, Boyd Hogan, the only car on the lead lap at this moment. If a caution comes out, Vincent Arthur will get that lucky dog spot. But we're coming up to now 60 laps that this driver's been out there. I believe 65 might be the longest that you can go fuel-wise. Boyd Hogan, he's inching closer and closer to pit road when he has to come in. But this 2-car still running quick and honestly running faster laps than some of the drivers that pitted already.
And he, obviously we saw when he's on the fresh tires, he is rocket fast. So Vincent Arthur right now on the fresher tires, he's running about 2 to 3 tenths faster than Boyd Hogan. It was about 12.5 seconds between the two when the 24 eventually came to pit road. So he will cut into that deficit a little bit, but as soon as that 2-car comes down pit road and gets those fresh tires, the advantage then swings back into Hogan's favor.
Yeah, with the fact that Boyd Hogan's coming in and he's trying to get by traffic that just came out of the pits, that suits him that just got out of the pits there. Boyd's coming in the pits now, and the question is he going to be, he just came in. I was like, you're coming in with a little bit too much speed there, sir. But he was good. Now it's the battle here for second place. As Boyd Hogan, that deficit might drop down to maybe 6 seconds difference, as long as he has no issues on pit road, which, I mean, this two machine's been flawless almost all season long. It's been a lot of contact with other drivers when they have issues. And we'll see how much this deficit is cut into. As, like I said, that battle for second place still underway. Piscota able to make the pass on the 24.
Yeah, they just unlapped themselves going by Boyd Hogan on the front straightaway, so they have to go an entire mile and a half around again before they would be battling for position with Boyd Hogan, who has already left his pit stall, and I believe is just now exiting onto the back straightaway, so he's still going to have a huge gap between himself and Joseph Piscota. Let's see if we can even see Piscota in the same shot. Nope, can't even see him coming off of turn 2.
Now, I think it's going to be around 6 seconds, 6.5. Yeah, it's down to 6.5 now as Boyd Hogan is getting up to speed. But it's just, it wasn't enough time. I mean, it's dropped down now to about 5.5 seconds. But Boyd Hogan, now he's getting going. He's going to have 5-lap fresher tires, and he's just going to pull off from here as this race, as long as it stays green, it's in the hands of the 2 machine. But that also means we have to look back and see where other drivers are at. Butcher Benjamin in the 11 machine was up to 5th place, has moved up to 4th place. So that's helping the 11 even more to having a plenty of a points gap on the rest of the field going into Iowa, which is very necessary for this 11.
And right now, Ty Mcwherter, he is in the 7th position, Chad Gunisman in 8th. So both of those drivers doing exactly what they need to do to, if not gain, maintain their gap over the other drivers behind them below that cut line, as Mcwherter way low there out of turn 4, trying to take away the 6th position from Ryan Strunk.
Yeah, they are going crazy. Also got word Boyd Hogan actually is going to be returning. Coming into the playoffs, there were talks that maybe he wasn't going to be. Sounds like Boyd Hogan actually has been cleared to come back for next season.
Boyd Hogan wanting to head into that new season as the defending champion of the Veterans of Foreign War Cup Series, as he's about 27 laps away from capturing his 14th checkered flag of the season. That battle for second place continues to happen here. It opened up about half a second. It's now closed up to 3/10 between Piscota and Vincent Arthur. And what's interesting here to me is both these drivers have their own little agendas. For Joseph Piscota, he's looking for what would be his 4th straight top 5 finish. For Vincent Arthur, however, that position ahead of him, yes, it's a teammate, but it's also a point.
Yeah, it's a major point. And due to the fact that Ty Mcwherter got that bonus point for leading a lap, this 24 car did not lead a lap once so far this race. So Vincent Arthur is going to be behind on that wise. So he needs to get to second place and get as many points as possible if he wants to chip away at the drivers that are already looking like they're going to be locked in for next round.
Yeah, again, I'm pretty certain that the only drivers that have led tonight of our playoff contenders are race leader Boyd Hogan and the 96 of Ty Mcwherter. I thought that maybe Ryan Strunk would maybe be a driver that would stay out and lead a lap, but he ended up coming down pit road. I think it was on the same lap as Boyd Hogan, so he didn't get the chance to get a bonus point there. As we had a car in the wall off of turn 2. That was Greg Newsom in the 3 car. I mean, yes, we are 24 laps away from the conclusion of this race. We've only had 1 caution here today, but there is absolutely no guarantee that this race is going to finish without another caution coming out. And if that is the case, we currently have 6 cars on the lead lap as Ryan Strunk was just put a lap down here by Boyd Hogan.
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but based on what we've been seeing all season long, if the drivers start out with an early caution and then they go on a long streak, it's the final about 20 to 15 laps when we start to see a lot of cautions start sneaking up on these drivers. So yes, we've been going green for a long time. We've also been seeing throughout this race drivers getting extremely loose at it too and been able to save it. Will that luck and will that skill finally run out here as we're getting closer and closer to the end?
Samuel Dyer here with his Larry McReynolds trends of the race as Boyd Hogan now going to put Ty Mcwherter down a lap. Now only 4 drivers on the lead lap again. A similar situation to what we had just prior to when Boyd Hogan made his final pit stop.
These drivers are just going to keep on pushing as hard as they can. That battle for second place has kind of drifted away. Expected to come back and hounding again here, probably in the next 10 laps or so when those tires cool out a little bit more. Other battles, I mean, right now there's a kind of a battle starting to loom for 6th place. Ryan Strunk starting to catch up to Logan Helton, and Helton, usually the longer these runs go on, the more that 18 machine looks a little bit out of shape.
Here this evening, we ended up having, I think, only 8 drivers finish out last night's National Series race. Here tonight, 19 drivers took the green flag, and while we have a number of drivers multiple laps down, 17 cars still running on the racetrack. And as we just said, 4 of them now make it 3 of them on the lead lap, as Taylor Butcher Benjamin is going to go a lap down. But, you know, the thing about it is, if you're looking at guys like Taylor Butcher Benjamin, Ty Mcwherter currently a lap down, it doesn't matter if you finish 1 lap down, 6 laps down on the lead lap. As long as you're in that 4th and 5th position, both of these Toyota drivers look like they're going to have themselves a pretty nice cushion when we get to Iowa next week.
Yeah, it's going to be a solid day for them. Other battles that look like are looming up. Ty Mcwherter is catching up to Butcher Benjamin here for 4th place, and there's a lot of tire difference between those 2 drivers, so expect to see that battle heating up here soon. But Seth, like we stated, we got other broadcasts after this one for FTF Grand National Series. I got to go set up for that one. Have a great rest of your race.
All right, I'll be joining you momentarily as we're going to finish out this one here at Texas. Less than 20 laps to go for Boyd Hogan. We'll continue watching this battle for the 4th position between Taylor Butcher Benjamin and Ty Mcwherter. 7 laps difference here between these drivers and the laps on their tires. Mcwherter with the advantage in that regard, as he'll pull right up to the back bumper of the FedEx Toyota Camry, and we'll see which corner he wants to make the move in. A lot of drivers saying that 1 and 2 is really the difference maker on being able to make passes, especially on the long green flag run. You saw right there, 2 different drivers, 2 different approaches, as I think that was Mcwherter took a slightly higher entry into turn 1, tried to drop it down there in turn 2, might have gotten the apron just the least little bit, which killed his momentum coming off of turn 2, but now a great run out of turn 4. We'll see if he slingshots the inside. Ooh, that car was just a little bit squirrely on corner exit as he continued to put the pressure on Ty Mcwherter. Really no hurry for the 96, however, because it's over a second and a half back to the 18 of Logan Helton, who has just a little bit older tires than Ty Mcwherter. You see him back there. Mcwherter now going to make the pass on Butcher Benjamin, moving him up into the 4th position. Not much else going on in terms of battling. We do have a car on pit road, the 20 of Chris Hansen. This is an extended stay on pit lane for him, so I can only assume that he may have gotten up into the wall at some point here in this race. We saw, I think it was Greg Newsom was up in the wall off of turn 2. A lot of drivers been struggling with that tight condition on the long run here today at Texas Motor Speedway. And a big reason for that is because of this configuration of Texas Motor Speedway. I mean, back a couple of years ago, Texas was 24 degrees of banking in turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, which is why it was kind of considered a cookie cutter racetrack, the same on one end as it was on the other. But then, after the reconfiguration took place over in 1 and 2, the banking went down by 4 degrees. You had one end of the track with 20 degrees of banking, the other end of the track with 24 degrees of banking, which kind of made it very similar to a Darlington Raceway, where you had the choice of trying to set your car up for one end of the racetrack or the other. Very difficult to set it up to handle well on both ends of the racetrack. So that's why Texas Motor Speedway, aside from its sister D-shaped mile-and-a-half tracks like Charlotte and Atlanta, kind of a unique configuration now opposed to those other 2. But Boyd Hogan continues to tick away laps. Now 12 laps to go here for the 2 car. New scheme here tonight, as we mentioned, sporting the pink on his, we'll call it the gray deuce here tonight. as he is trying to find victory lane for the 14th time. And just one last time, going to remind folks that you can also see up here on our ticker, we're sporting the pink during the month of October, supporting Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Fundraiser currently going on with the Breast Cancer Awareness Foundation. And if you would like to head on over and help us on our FRN fundraiser, contribute to the Breast Cancer Awareness Foundation, link to it is down in the description of this broadcast below. And that may have been the first time tonight I have seen that two-car look at all unstable, as Boyd Hogan, little slideways there out of turn 2, and he's realizing that as we get closer to the end of this race, he wants to get these laps ticked away and in the books as soon as possible, so that way there's no chance for a caution to come out and completely turn this race on its head. If you remember back, Boyd Hogan was dominating back at Las Vegas. And we had a late race caution come out, and Sam talked about it earlier on in this race where the top 6, 7, 8 drivers all got involved in a wreck. Hogan was one of those drivers, and Ty Mcwherter went on to win that event. Boyd Hogan does not want to have a situation like that take place here again at Texas Motor Speedway, as he is now under 10 laps to go. 14 seconds between himself and Joseph Piscota, another 3.5 seconds before you get back to Vincent Arthur. And the best battle on track right now is going on between drivers that are 6 laps down. James Love in the 13th position, trying to hold off the 54 of Roger Gregory, as these two carry this battle into 3 and 4. Gregory has the fresher tires, but you can see he's been up into the wall. A lot of damage on the right front of his Mcwherter Racing entry, but he does have the fresher tires by 7 laps over James Love. Ooh, he overdrove turns 1 and 2 there, though. It's going to lose him a lot of momentum as Love having to jerk the wheel to the left to avoid hitting the wall there in turn 2. Battle that's also possibly going on here, but it's still about 0.7 of a second separation, and that is Ty Mcwherter and Taylor Butcher Benjamin back at it. We saw Mcwherter take the 4th spot about 10 laps ago. Mcwherter still within striking distance here. He's also got the lap machine of John Mullins in between the two of them. Right now, Mullins 2 laps down in the 10th position. But right now, it is looking like a very strange scenario heading into Iowa next week. You've got the drivers that are trying to hold their spots, which right now, Boyd Hogan would definitely have one of the final 4 spots. Taylor Butcher Benjamin in 5th would more than likely secure one here tonight as well. So it would be Ty Mcwherter and Chad Gunesman trying to hold off the advances of Ryan Strunk, Vincent Arthur, Zach York, and Caden Rush if Rush shows up for next week's race at Iowa. And all 4 of those drivers I just mentioned, more than likely, because of where everyone is currently running here, they will be going into those races that race, I should say, in must-win situations to be going to ISM to battle for the championship. 4 laps to go for Boyd Hogan. That's Justin Carey in the 21 back behind him, who I think... No, he is not on fresher tires. I think he may have actually just been put another lap down. Hogan again getting loose there off the corner, as is Justin Carey. We never say die. This race ain't over yet. There could still be a yellow flag that comes out. Remember, Boyd Hogan has to take the white flag before yellow flag comes out, or else we would be heading into overtime. Battle for second. There is none. Still 4 seconds between Piscota and Vincent Arthur, but how about the momentum run that Joseph Piscota has been on here the last couple of weeks? Coming off 3 straight third-place finishes. And right now, looking to make it 4 in a row for top 3 finishes, but looking for what I think would be his third runner-up finish of the season. He had one back at Pocono, and I'm trying to remember where his second one was. It might have been Talladega, but I would have to double check on that. No, it was Darlington. Darlington was where he had that other second place run. And right now, trying to catch up to Chad Gunnisman, who is a lap down in the 8th position. As Boyd Hogan finally sees the flag he's probably been waiting for the last 25 to 30 laps. The white flag is in the air. He just needs one more picture-perfect lap around this 1.5-mile D-shaped speedway. Very steady there through turn 2. 14.5 seconds back to Joseph Piscota. He could probably coast through 3 and 4 and still make it back to the start-finish line. But at full song, he'll bring his number 2 legacy Ford to the line. His 14th win of the season, taking the checkered flag here tonight at Texas Motor Speedway. Boyd Hogan, last year, or not last year, but the last time they were at Texas, started on the pole and finished 3rd while driving the number 38 Ford for Front Row Motorsports. And here, later on in the season, he will take the checkered flag. He will get his 2nd win of this round. So if he wasn't already advancing into the Final Four, he is here again. And Boyd Hogan shaking things up as far as the playoffs as well, because with this win is now guaranteed 2 drivers will be pointing their way into the championship battle at ISM in a few weeks' time. As Hogan burns it down here in front of these Texas fans, let's take a look at our finishing results. And Joseph Piscota will bring it home 2nd place with Vincent Arthur right behind him in 3rd. Those were the only 3 drivers to finish on the lead lap tonight. Ty Mcwherter, though, doing exactly what he needed to do coming into this race. The cutoff line driver, 4th in the standings, will bring it home with a 4th place run. Remember, this all started with his strategy call back on lap 10. It did not come to pit lane. Now, I'm certain he wouldn't have minded seeing a couple late race yellows because he had, I think, 2 sets of tires still waiting in pit road for him that he could have used. But he'll still get a top 5 run. Taylor Butcher Benjamin. We knew Boyd Hogan last week was locked into the Final Four. I think we can now safely say Taylor Butcher Benjamin will be one of his competitors at ISM. Came in 12 points to the good. A top 5 run should be locking him into the championship picture. Logan Helton, the highest of our Cup creepers, if you will, finishing in the 6th position, a former Cup Series winner himself back at Daytona. Ryan Strunk will finish in 7th. Not going to be enough for him, though, to be able to get up into the top 4. Chad Gunnisman will maintain a spot in the top 4 as well, I do believe, finishing in 8th. David Santini, having to battle back from the pit road speeding penalty, will finish last car 1 lap down in 9th. And John Mullins is going to complete the top 10. We'll cycle here through the remainder of the finishing results. Let's go down and see if we can get a word with our 3rd place finisher, Vincent Arthur. Hey, Vincent, it's Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got me?
I got you, sir.
Well, crazy race here tonight at Texas Motor Speedway. You guys had to get through that early caution, and then it was green flag racing all the way through to the checkered flag, leaving you guys with a lot of choices in terms of when you made those green flag pit stops. You bring it home 3rd place here tonight. Does that at least give you some momentum going into next week at Iowa? Because it's almost looking like points-wise, you may have to win next week to get into that championship 4.
Absolutely. I mean, I thought I'd never get an interview again, but I'm thankful to finally be back up on the podium. Pit strategy was I mean, I think it was a little easier because the top 3 were, well, Boyd was in his own zip code, but at least me and Joseph could have had some fun, going back and forth. I think I short pit him by 2 laps on the first green flag stop and then by 1 lap. And my car just, it really wasn't there to the point where I could, stick with Joseph and everything else like that on equal tires. I think at a certain point in our run, we would equal out, but, it was just trying to time it right. So the tires equaled out at the right time. But we were able to play a little bit of strategy. Got to thank John Jones, making the calls up on the box today. He did a great job, and I'm just super thankful to finally be back up on the podium.
Well, Vincent Arthur, the first time that we talked to him on FRN, it was at another D-shaped 1.5 miles at Charlotte. He brings it home 3rd place here tonight at the Texas Motor Speedway. Vincent, we're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Yeah, thanks. I got to thank Veterans of Foreign Wars, the Soda Guys, iRacing, iFlag, Shoba Racing Graphics, FSM Customs, Abiding Love Memorial Urns, Jones Racing Setups, Full Tilt Brewing Company, and then I got to thank all my guys back at the 24. I'll be moving to the 9 next year, so I'm hoping to finish out the year with this group of guys, and finish on a high note. And I think we have a really good shot to do it. Iowa's a good track for us, so we'll try to go there, at least win if we have to, and if not, point our way in. But then try to cap it off with a championship for Mr. Hendrick and all them.
Well, that's Vincent Arthur, third place run here tonight, a podium performance at Texas. Congrats on a great run there, Vincent, and we look forward to seeing if you can maybe sneak your way into that championship for next week at Iowa.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
And let's see if we can now get a word with his Hendrick Motorsports teammate, Joseph Piscota. Hey, Joseph, it's Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got me?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Man, what a wave of momentum you have been on in the last few weeks. You've came into this race with back-to-back third-place runs. You bring it home second place here tonight at Texas. Almost kind of leaves me wondering what if you had actually been able to advance here into this round of 8, because this is definitely looking like some championship runs.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we didn't get there. I feel really good about ending the season. A lot of good momentum, and the cars have been good, and we've been fast. Texas threw me for a little loop in the beginning, but we did some adjustments, got a lot better, and we just kind of ran out of time because the car was on an absolute rail there at the end. But it's a lot of what ifs I think about every week, but it is what it is. We're doing everything we can to finish out the season.
Well, a great run for you here tonight, Joseph. Your third top 2 finish of the season. You also had runner-up finishes at, I believe it was Pocono and Darlington. So it's great to be seeing that number 9 running up there towards the front. I know that obviously with you not battling for the championship, you want to try and get that 9 machine in victory lane before season's end. But we're now going to turn the microphone over. Let's do some shout-outs.
Yeah, appreciate it. I got to give a shout out to the VFW, Soda Guys, iRacing, iFlags, Shorbers Racing Graphics, FSM Customs, and Abiding Love Memorial Urns, and Legacy Esports for getting another great setup out, and you guys for putting on a good show.
Well, Piscota brings it home second place here tonight at Texas Motor Speedway. Congrats on a great run here, Joseph, and we look forward to seeing how you're going to close out the remainder of this season.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And let's now go and get our race winner, 14-time winner now, Boyd Hogan. Hey, Boyd, it's Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got me?
Yes, sir.
Well, a dominating performance for you here tonight. Looked very similar to what we saw Santini be able to do in last night's race. Your car looked really good out there in clean air, but was there anything you were struggling with? Was there traffic? Was it the track conditions, maybe the tires wearing down, or was that 2-car pretty solid all the way through?
I mean, I was fighting a lot. I'm not sure if it was wind or just the track state or what it really was, but it was plowing absolutely everywhere except the exit of 2. Definitely deleting the setup after we get done here. But yeah, the car was okay. Everybody was pretty cordial as far as traffic's concerned, and it was pretty smooth sailing in terms of the race. Nothing cute. Just go out there and see what we got. And it turned out to be. I mean, it's a fast car, obviously, but definitely not anything that I would bring back.
Well, I mean, Boyd, obviously we knew after last week's race at Kansas that you were going to be locked into that Final 4 at ISM. Was this a statement win here tonight to whoever the other 3 competitors are going to be? If you're going to win this championship when we get into Phoenix, you're going to have to take it from me?
I mean, yes and no. I think for the most part that's been the general consensus, but obviously, it's the next. Obviously, today and next week is pretty stress free for us. We know that we're going into Phoenix, and I got the car ready a couple days ago. It's awesome. We're not touching it, and we'll bring it out there and see what we have. But it's just doing the same thing we've been doing all year. Just go see if we can capture some flags, and that's what we've been doing. And I don't really see any reason to change it. Obviously, we're going to show up to Iowa next week and just be going for the win and nothing else. And I mean, that's just kind of how we've taken it one race at a time here as well. Knowing, coming into the series that the points championship was going to be tough to get in the regular season. So at that point, it was just stack up playoff points, and we did a good job of that through the year. And so it's given us some buffer room, and obviously so was the win last week. And today was just another day, man.
Well, we saw you nearly sweep the round of 16 a few weeks ago. You got an opportunity, as you said, stress-free going into Iowa to maybe sweep this round of 8. We wish you luck with that. For now, we're going to turn the microphone over and let you do some shout-outs, Boyd.
Yeah, first and foremost, want to shout out Steve. No, he's watching the broadcast all the time. You guys do a great job of broadcasting. I know he enjoys watching it. Everybody on Legacy, Bobby Earnhardt, Kale Gale. I don't know if you guys got to touch on the Gale Force shocks down the side, but I wanted to do something for Kale. He's done a lot for my racing career, both sim racing and in real life, and can't thank him enough. So, want to get some names on the car that we haven't had yet. Everybody on Slip Angle, obviously, the car is not perfect yet, but there's been a lot of work going into it this week and a lot of effort, and we're gonna keep plugging away, see what we can get for Tuesday. But everybody on Slip Angle, Judd at a Bruzy, Butt Kicker, VFW obviously for being the title sponsor on the series, and FSM Customs. Also want to thank Austin Derbyshire again for knocking the paints out of the park. This breast cancer awareness month, so we were trying to throw some pink on the car, and ended up looking pretty good. But yeah, also want to shout out the guys calling me Vanilla and saying that I got the same interview every week, because that ain't right, man. Thank you, Seth. Thanks to everybody in the booth. Thanks to everybody for watching. And we're gonna go get them at Iowa. And also, not sure if anybody's heard, but we're coming back in the 3-car next year at RCR. So gonna have to deal with this next year too.
Well, that's Boyd Hogan. He hopes to head into next season as the defending champion, and certainly en route to doing that. His 14th win of the season here, his second win of this round of 8, and if not already locked in, definitely locked in now to that championship 4 at ISM. Congrats, Boyd, on a great run, and we look forward to seeing what you do next week when we get to Iowa en route to that championship battle.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Seth.
And that's going to conclude our coverage here tonight from Texas Motor Speedway. Doing a little bit of rapid fire swapping over. Samuel Dyer already having the coverage of the FTF Grand National Series at North Wilkesboro underway. I'll be hopping over there and helping him momentarily. But we appreciate everybody for tuning in here tonight to the Veterans of Foreign War Cup Series. Next week, Iowa Speedway will be the final resting place for some drivers' championship dreams. It will also be the opportunity for drivers to make their way into that championship 4 at ISM Raceway. Who will move on? Who will be eliminated? We'll be finding that out next week. Thanks to Samuel Dyer for joining me here for the early portions of this race. Thank you all for tuning into tonight's event. For Samuel Dyer, I'm Seth Cole. You've been watching another broadcast this evening courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.